afternoon. So glad to have you with me on another Wellness with Wendy online class. Today we're going to talk about simple living and mindfulness. And really it's about managing your time. It's about managing your stress levels so that you can get more accomplished and feel better about yourself from a whole health perspective. So we're just going to get started. I'm going to give you some ideas where you can stop feeling like your life is a series of crises. I mean, how many of you feel that way? You feel like just putting out fires is part of your job. And you spend so much of your time tired and overwhelmed and frustrated. This is something that so many of us in our society really feel like on a daily basis, and it's so hard. And so you might be thinking, who am I to talk about simple living, right? I mean, after all, I'm the news director for the Bighorn Radio Network. I'm a musician full-time in the summer. I'm a holistic nutritionist, and I have clients on a daily basis. I'm a doTERRA wellness advocate, so I'm teaching classes. I'm worship leader at my church, so that's an every week thing. Plus, I am a mom of two active adults, trying to keep track of them and still be mom for them. They're young adults. And then a daughter. I've got family, I've got parents, I've got grandparents, and I'm a friend. So I have lots of connections. So when you stop and think about simple living, am I really the best person to talk to this subject? Of course I am, because I do all of these things, and yet I have a sense of peace and joy about my life on a daily basis. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you about how I do it, but I want to make sure that you know that this is something that can be yours as well. So let's define simple living. Time management is a big deal. Good nutrition is optimal. I mean, that is just a huge part of it. Good sleep, spirituality, what matters most. I mean, really think about what matters most to you. All of these things all come together to create simple living and a peaceful, joyful life. So let's kind of pull these all apart. So for example, time management. There are a lot of tips that I can give you for ways that you can manage your time better. For example, email, Facebook messages, all of these things, text messages that come in. When things get tight, ignore email, ignore those text messages, ignore those until you get time. What I have started doing is I have started setting aside, I've got 2 hours in my day that I set aside to respond to emails, to respond to text messages. And if I am busy, if I'm in other meetings, if I've got things going on, I relegate those checking on those messages until those 2 times of the day. Now, there's some days where I've got more flexibility, but I find it's not a time suck if I just focus my responses to those 2 times. Another idea, end your workday at a fixed time. You may be one of those people that says, but I've got to finish this and I've got to finish this, so you get home late. But if you end your workday at a fixed time, for example, you can even have 2 set times. One time is set for regular days, and one is for days when life is a little more full. So maybe you can say, I am done with work every day by 5 p.m. Or if you've got days that's a little more full, I know my days can vary. Some days I'll have a city council meeting or something to go to in the evening. Then I just set a different time and I segment my time so that I'm not spending all of my time thinking about work. If social media is a part of your job, schedule your updates for certain times so that you're not constantly checking Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You want to make sure that you set that time aside so it doesn't take over your life as well and you don't feel like you're stretched too thin. Another thing, and this is tough, so you might want to keep this one private, but make a list for yourself who and what drains your time and your energy. Then you limit your interactions or your tasks with those people, with those projects, as much as possible. Obviously, if this is somebody you work with on a daily basis, if it's a boss, something like that, you have to be very careful about that. But if you can limit your interactions with those people, your life will feel less stressed and you will have more joy and more peace. Another thing, don't underestimate how much time a task is going to take. So, for example, if you've got a project that you think, oh, I'll get this done in half an hour, you've got to allow for interruptions, you've got to allow for snags. So double the amount of time that you think a project is going to take, at least double that amount of time. Because, gee, if you get it done early, you've got free time. But that allows you that peace and that buffer. And then also show up on time. If you value your time, other people will do the same. If somebody is late for a meeting, go on, do your thing. And let them know that your time is valuable. So it might be tough to do and people would have to get used to it, but it's something to consider. So let's shift gears. That's kind of just some time management tips. Let's shift gears to nutrition. And of course, I talk a lot about nutrition because I'm a holistic nutritionist. But I want you to think about what improper nutrition does to you. For example, improper nutrition gives you indigestion. Improper nutrition gives you bloating. You become dependent on caffeine. You have sugar highs and sugar crashes because you're eating poor foods. When you do that, don't you think that influences and impacts how you feel? Don't you think that impacts your energy, your ability to do your job, the ability to enjoy life, the ability to have peace? So think about poor nutrition and the negative impacts. And then on the other hand, think about better nutrition. Think about proper nutrition. When you eat regularly, when you eat your veggies and your fruits, when you add those high fiber foods, when you prepare healthy snacks, all of those things then contribute to more energy, less digestive upset. You sleep better. Better nutrition, just as a foundation for your life, impacts so many things in your life. You have less brain fog. So when you're considering, oh, I don't have time, I'm just going to grab this muffin, or I don't have time, I'm just going to live on my coffee for the morning, even though my stomach's telling me I need to eat, those are things that are going to bite you in the rear end later. So make mindful decisions when it comes to your nutrition, and it will impact positively the rest of your day. So healthy habits. Let's take a look now at kind of what a typical day is for most people. And let's take a look at a typical day versus an optimal day. And let's look at the difference between the two. This will, again, with the goal of looking at the difference, will help you make more mindful decisions in the future. So if you wake up and the first thing you do is you drink your cup of coffee, you start your caffeine for the day. Breakfast, is it on the go, or have you planned it in advance? Or do you skip it altogether, even though you might be better off having it? What about your schedule? Do you check it in the morning? Or do you check it the day before? Are you hitting the ground running like, oh my gosh, I forgot I had this meeting at 8 o'clock. Oh my gosh. And then after that, I'm not going to have time to go work out. If you check it the day before, that might mean that you have a better plan and more peaceful day. But if you wait, also, how packed is it? Do you have one meeting after another, or do you have a buffer in between there? Lunch. Is it a working lunch? Or are you sitting at your desk eating? Or is it an actual break from your day? Exercise. Do you have time to fit that in? What about dinner? Is it a grab and go dinner? Is it planned in advance? Is it, I'm just going to run through McDonald's on my way home? Think about those things. Maybe kind of take notes with this, and I'll be able to supply some notes for you as well on this. So if your typical day is rushed, crammed, on the fly, and always going in crisis mode, can you see how that's going to impact everything from how you feel, to how tired you are, to how much you enjoy life? Let's turn this around. Let's go waking up. Instead of immediately going for your coffee, drink a cup of warm water with lemon. That's going to set your body up to, number one, get rid of toxins that have accumulated over the last day, and it's going to hydrate you. So you're actually going to think clearer than you will if you have had your caffeine right away. Also, I would encourage you to build in a few minutes every morning for prayer or meditation, affirmations, visualization, reviewing your goals. Just 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes of doing those things will set you up for a peaceful, planned day. Breakfast then, instead of just coffee, which a lot of times has sugar or milk, things like that that aren't necessarily good for your body or your brain, have maybe an egg mug in a microwave. It takes literally a minute and a half. Stick a couple of eggs in a mug and put some, spinach or some chicken or some, if you're a cheese person and you don't have a problem with dairy, put some dairy in there, put some cheese in there, put a little ham, something that's going to be a good, hearty, protein-filled breakfast, or something that has good complex carbs like oatmeal with fruit. Or maybe a low-sugar smoothie, something that doesn't take a long time, but that will fill you and set you up for a good day. That'll get your brain going, that'll get your metabolism going. What about your schedule? So do you have space in between for flexibility? Start today going through your schedule and looking at the places where you can just make a gap. So you're not just running from one meeting to the next. You don't have time to debrief. You don't have time to take a breath. You don't have time to get yourself back at peace before running into the next one. Also, plan the next day's tasks the day before. Just before you go to bed, take out your calendar and write down what your tasks are, what your to-do list is, so that the next day you know what the day is going to look like as soon as you wake up, and you don't have to frantically go, oh, I forgot about this. It just sets you up for a much more peaceful, planned day. Let's talk about lunch. Ideally, your lunch should be a break. For lunch meetings, though, which are inevitable for some people, choose foods that are going to fuel your brain for the afternoon. Don't choose high carb, high refined carbs, high sugar. Don't do those things to yourself, because it's going to set you up for a blood sugar crash later in the afternoon. So lean meats, veggies, fruits, whole grains, that's going to actually fuel your body for the afternoon, and you won't need an afternoon snack. You won't need that afternoon caffeine or that afternoon piece of candy, something to set you up for another sugar rush. Exercise, too. If you plan your exercise, you are much more likely to get it in, even if it's just 15 minutes a day. If it's when you rise in the morning, whether it's at lunch, go for a walk, or just right after work. Plan to get that exercise in at a time that's convenient, that you know you will get it done. Now, let's go to dinner. Crock-pot meals, piece of cake, so easy, fast food at its finest. Prepare it the weekend before, stick it in the freezer in a Ziploc baggie, and then dump it into your crock-pot in the morning. You will have dinner ready for you when you get home. No carry-out, no extra money, it's just right there. Or maybe have ingredients ready for salads, for just taco night, or something that's simple, easy to put together. Bake a bunch of potatoes on the weekend and reheat them in the middle of the week. That's something you make a potato bar. So simple, yet so healthy. So something like that is a great plan for dinner. So those are just a few ideas for dinner. Let's go now to our evenings. How do you spend your evenings? Is it in front of the couch or in front of the TV, sitting on the couch? Why not read a book? Why not take a walk? Play with your kids or your pets. Spend quality time with your partner or your spouse. If you can set those evenings aside, instead of doing all this housework or instead of doing all this, make sure that you have time in your evenings to do what fuels you, what fuels your soul, what fills your soul and in your heart. Sleep. Sleep is very, very important. So how do you get better sleep? You eat higher quality food. You leave work at work. And so if you still have problems sleeping, supplements like melatonin, using essential oils like lavender or cedar wood can really help you to sleep better, which then, of course, sets you up for better days. If you can sleep better at night, that means a better day. Simple changes. We're talking about simple changes that mean big results. So making those healthy changes it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, I'm revamping my whole life. Just take some simple steps like what we've talked about today and implement them over time. Don't implement them all at once. Just every week add something new in. And that can make a huge, huge impact on your stress level and your productivity. So my challenge to you is, how many of these simple changes can you see making in your life? I encourage you to take some time and use this time to make your life better, more at peace, and be more mindful. Thanks for coming to another Wellness with Wendy online class. I encourage you to stay tuned. Next Tuesday, I'll be back, 5:30 p.m. with more. Thanks a lot.